She accidentally sent me a text meant for her sister, just pretending to be pregnant to get him to propose. Classic move. I screenshotted it and sent it back with classic breakup. She spent hours crying that it was a joke. I, 28, male, never thought I'd be writing one of these, but here we are. 6 months ago, I was planning to propose to my girlfriend of 4 years, Rachel, 26. Today, I'm sitting in the apartment we used to share, drinking coffee from a mug she bought me that says, "World's okayest boyfriend." Turns out that was an overstatement. It started with a text that wasn't meant for me. I was at work when my phone buzzed. Rachel and I had been texting about dinner plans. Nothing special. Then this came through. Just pretending to be pregnant to get him to propose. Classic move. Remember when Mom did this with Dad? He's been looking at rings, so I had to speed things up. The fake pregnancy test app is genius. My coffee went cold. I read it 3 times, my brain refusing to process the words. But there it was, clear as day. I screenshotted it immediately. My hands were shaking, but I managed to type, "Classic breakup." Then I sent the screenshot back to her. The typing bubbles appeared and disappeared about 15 times. Then my phone exploded. I counted 47 missed calls in the first hour. I finally just turned it off and told my boss I had a family emergency, which didn't feel like a lie. When I finally turned my phone back on that evening, I had 112 missed calls and a novel's worth of texts. They ranged from, "Baby, please, it's not what it looks like," to, "It was a joke with my sister," to the one that made my blood run cold, "I'm going to hurt myself if you don't answer." I texted back once, "Do not threaten self-harm. If you are serious, you need to call 911. I'm staying at Mike's. We are not talking about this until you calm down." She showed up at Mike's apartment at 2 a.m., pounding on the door, mascara streaming down her face. His neighbor yelled through the wall about calling the cops, so Mike let her in. "It was a joke," she sobbed, trying to grab my hands. "Sarah and I were joking about that stupid reality show we watched. You know, where that girl faked being pregnant. I was being sarcastic." "Then show me the rest of the conversation with Sarah," I said, my voice flat. Her face went pale. I deleted it. I was so upset. I panicked and deleted the whole thread. How convenient. You don't trust me after 4 years. You just admitted to joking about faking a pregnancy to trap me into marriage. Even if it was a joke, which we both know it wasn't, why would I ever want to marry someone who finds that funny? She called me every name in the book. Said I was looking for an excuse to leave, that I never really loved her, that I'd regret this. Mike, seeing how unhinged she was, discreetly started a voice recording on his phone. A smart move, as it turned out. The next morning, I went back to our apartment while she was at work. I'd already emailed our landlord. Both our names were on the lease, and he was sympathetic but firm. I couldn't just walk away. He said my best bet was a lease transfer where she would take over the lease entirely, but that required her signature. Problem for another day. I packed my stuff methodically. 4 years of memories boxed up in 3 hours. I left anything she'd given me except that mug. I don't know why I kept it. A reminder, maybe. Worried about what she might do or claim, I did something that would save my ass later. I took photos of everything. Every room, every valuable item, the condition of the apartment, time-stamped, uploaded to the cloud. Then I found something in her nightstand drawer. Under a stack of papers was a pregnancy test, positive. My heart stopped for a second before I looked closer. It wasn't a brand I recognized. I Googled the name on the side, Fake Plus. It was a gag product. My stomach churned. I took photos of it from every angle. I left the test on the kitchen counter with a note. Found your prop. Good luck with the next guy. When Rachel got home, the calls started again. This time she was furious. How dare I go through her things? How dare I leave? How dare I judge her for what she called one stupid, silly mistake? I didn't respond. I was done. But she was just getting started. It's been a month since I left, and this has escalated into a full-blown nightmare. First came the smear campaign. Rachel told everyone, and I mean everyone, that I had abandoned her the moment she told me she was pregnant. Her mom called me screaming about how I was abandoning her baby. Her friends bombed my social media with comments calling me a deadbeat. My own aunt texted, asking if it was true. I tried to take the high road. Mike kept telling me to defend myself, but I didn't want to air our dirty laundry. That lasted until Rachel posted on Facebook, "Some men will literally abandon their pregnant girlfriend rather than step up. Glad I found out his true colors before we got married." 157 likes, 82 comments, all supporting her, calling me trash. That's when I snapped. Not with anger, but with a cold sense of self-preservation. I posted my own update. It was simple. The screenshot of her text about faking the pregnancy, the photo of the fake plus test on the counter, and one sentence, "The only thing she's pregnant with is lies." The post exploded. The fallout was immediate but messy. Some of her friends deleted their comments. Others doubled down and accused me of faking the screenshot. Her mom called again, this time quieter, asking if that text was real. I told her to ask her daughter to show her the full chat log. Then things got weirder. Rachel showed up at my work. Security had to escort her out when she refused to leave the lobby, crying hysterically. Not sad crying, but angry crying. She screamed that I had ruined her life and that she'd make me pay. My boss called me in the next day. An anonymous email had been sent to HR accusing me of harassing my ex-girlfriend. It included screenshots of texts I had supposedly sent to Rachel, vile, threatening things. But the texts were obvious fakes. The font was slightly off. The timestamps were wrong. My boss, having seen the security footage of her meltdown, thankfully believed me, but he strongly suggested I get a lawyer. Best $300 consultation I ever spent. The lawyer, Janet, was a tiny woman with a deceptively pleasant smile. She reviewed everything. "Document it all," she said, her voice calm. "Change your passwords, all of them, and do not contact her. Let her dig her own grave." Rachel's tactics shifted again. She started posting about healing from betrayal and learning to forgive those who hurt you. She even tagged me in posts about the challenges of co-parenting after a bitter breakup. She was still clinging to the pregnancy lie. Her sister, Sarah, finally reached out. We'd always gotten along, and she looked horrified when we met for coffee. She confirmed there was no reality show joke. Rachel had been planning this for weeks, ever since she saw me browse engagement rings. "She's always been like this," Sarah said, staring into her cup. "She has to control the narrative." I asked her, "That text, it mentioned your mom. Remember when Mom did this with Dad? Was that real?" Sarah flinched. "It's complicated. Mom didn't fake a pregnancy, but she exaggerated a health scare to get Dad to propose faster. It's this toxic thing in our family. This idea that you do whatever it takes to lock a man down. Rachel learned it from the best. Then she dropped the real bomb. Rachel had done this before with her ex before me, faked a pregnancy scare, and when he found out and left, she told everyone he'd forced her to have an abortion. Why didn't you warn me, Sarah? She looked me dead in the eye. Honestly, would you have believed me? You were head over heels and she's my sister. I keep hoping she'll change. Couldn't even be mad. She was right. Sarah ended our meeting with a heads up. Rachel was being evicted because she couldn't afford the apartment alone, and she was telling people I'd made her homeless. In reality, she made decent money. She just didn't want to pay for it. That night, I got a text from an unknown number. "You think you've won, but this isn't over." I forwarded it to Janet. Her response was longer this time. "Perfect. This is harassment. Keep a log. It's been 4 months now." After the work incident, Rachel went quiet, and I started to think it was finally over. I was wrong. I got a fraud alert from my credit card company. Someone had applied for 3 new cards in my name. I was on the phone with them when another call came in from my bank. An attempt to wire $5,000 from my savings had been blocked by their security. Thank God for two-factor authentication. While dealing with that chaos, I got an email from my new apartment complex. My wife had called, trying to get a key and be added to my lease. The office staff thought it was suspicious, as I had rented the place as a single man. It was time to go nuclear. I met with Janet again, this time with a folder full of evidence. The fake harassment texts, the credit card applications, the call to my landlord, the new text from the unknown number. Janet's pleasant smile was gone. "Okay," she said. "This is no longer just a breakup. This is criminal. We're filing a police report for identity theft and attempted fraud, and we're getting a restraining order." The next few weeks were a blur of police stations and paperwork. The detective assigned to my case, Morrison, was a weary-looking guy who seemed unimpressed by my story at first, but when I mentioned the fake texts and the fraud attempts, his interest piqued. He said it sounded similar to the MO of a local, low-level fraudster they'd been tracking. "Has your ex ever used other names?" he asked. "Not that I know of." He pulled up a photo on his computer. It was Rachel, but with blonde hair, looking a few years younger. "Ever heard the name Rebecca Martinez?" My world tilted. "That's her. But her name is Rachel Mitchell." That's when I learned that my ex-girlfriend wasn't just manipulative. She had a prior conviction for check fraud under an alias. She'd gotten probation. Her family, the detective suspected, had likely paid her restitution and helped her bury it. I went home in a daze. For years, I'd spent 4 years with someone who had a criminal record she'd hidden from me. That evening, Sarah called, sobbing. Rachel had been arrested at their parents' house. Attempted wire fraud, identity theft, and violation of probation. Their parents were a wreck. Their daughter, the one they'd enabled for so long, was likely going to prison. "She's asking to see you," Sarah said quietly. "She says she needs to explain." "No. I told her you'd say that. She wanted me to tell you she really did love you, that the pregnancy thing was just panic, but the rest was real." I actually laughed, a hollow, bitter sound. "Sarah. She tried to steal $5,000 from me and ruin my career." "I know. I'm not defending her. I promised I'd tell you." We hung up, and I just felt empty. Not sad, not angry, just hollowed out. My phone buzzed. An email from a lawyer I didn't recognize. Rachel's public defender. She was offering to plead guilty to everything, saving the state a trial, in exchange for a statement from me to the judge about her otherwise good character, to hopefully get a lighter sentence. I forwarded it to Janet. Her response was swift. "Absolutely not. Do not reply. It's been 6 months since that first text. This chapter is finally closing. Rachel took a plea deal. 18 months in a minimum security facility, 3 years of probation upon release, and she has to pay restitution. Turns out I wasn't her only recent victim. The investigation found she'd been stealing checks from her employer and had successfully opened a credit card in the name of her elderly neighbor. The pyramid of lies was horrifyingly impressive. Sarah, in a final, guilt-ridden conversation, laid it all out. Rachel's first fraud conviction at 22 wasn't just trouble. She'd conned a guy out of $30,000 for tuition, then claimed he was a stalker when he went to the police. Her parents paid him back and hired a lawyer who got her probation, and they all agreed to pretend it never happened. She met me 2 years later. I was stable, had a good job in tech, and seemed like an easy mark. "She wasn't supposed to fall for you," Sarah said, looking ashamed. "The plan was to get some money and leave, but she actually caught feelings. That's why she panicked with the pregnancy lie. She knew you were serious, and it was a twisted, desperate attempt to lock you down before you could ever find out about her past. So, instead of being honest, she tried to trap me." "I'm not defending her," Sarah continued. "I'm explaining. The fraud at the end? That was desperation. She knew she'd lost the one person who loved her for who she pretended to be. She just snapped. The aftermath has been anticlimactic. Rachel is in prison. Her parents, facing the truth and the community's judgment, sold their house to cover her legal fees and restitution. They moved to Florida. A few of her friends sent me awkward apology messages on social media. I read them and deleted them. Those bridges are ash. My credit is recovering. My lawyer handled the rest. I could sue her for defamation, but what's the point? You can't get blood from a stone. I started therapy, not because I miss her, but because I need to understand how I fell for it, how I loved someone who was a complete fabrication. My therapist says I'm not stupid. I'm trusting, and a professional manipulator exploited that. It's a hard pill to swallow. She asked me, "If you could go back, would you erase meeting her?" I don't know. The good times felt real even if the foundation was a lie. The pain taught me about boundaries, about trusting my gut. And this whole nightmare probably saved me from a marriage built on a lie, which would have been infinitely worse. Still have that mug, though. It's a good reminder that being the world's okayest boyfriend is a hell of a lot better than being with a felon who would burn your life down for a ring. Rachel gets out in about a year, assuming good behavior. Sarah says she talks about starting fresh. Maybe she will, or maybe she'll find a new town and a new name. Either way, it's not my problem anymore. To anyone reading this, if something feels off, it probably is. Trust your gut. And for the love of God, run a background check. You never know what you'll find.